Welcome to Digital India Summit 2020, Enabling the New Normal, co-presented by Tata Consultancy Services and banking partner Union Bank of India. Digital India Summit provides a foundation for driving India's evolution into a globally recognized digital economy and enables conversations and discourses in the search for digitally empowered solutions for present and future challenges. Digital payments in India have seen an unprecedented growth during the pandemic. But what is the way ahead? What are the opportunities available to the sector and the hurdles that need to be overcome to take the industry to the next level of growth? Chandra Srikanth of Times Network is in conversation with Rajesh Mirjankar, MD and CEO Infrasoft, Mahendra Nerurkar, MD and CEO Amazon Pay India, and Padmaja Chunduru, MD and CEO Indian Bank.
Hello and welcome to this special discussion on digital payments. What's next for India? How can we really take it to the next level? I'm joined by three special guests. We have Mahendra Nerurkar, who is the CEO of Amazon Pay in India. We have Ms. Padmaja Chandru, who's the CEO of Indian Bank. We also have Rajesh Mijankar, who is the CEO of Infrasoft Technologies. Thank you all very much for joining us on ET Now. Now, 2020 has been an unprecedented year in so many ways, but it's also been a tipping point for digital transactions in India. AI has crossed 2 billion milestone. It won't be long before we start clocking 1 billion transactions a day. RBI, in fact, has a target of 1 billion transactions a day by 2025. That's where they see India going. But what will it really take to reach that number from where we currently are? What are the issues that we perhaps need to fix? What's the plumbing that we need to fix to get there? For all that and more, I'm joined by this very special panel. Thank you all very much. Mahendra, let me start with you. It's been a very good year for digital payments, for wallets, UPI, and everything. Apart from the stark dip that players saw in March, April, it's actually bounced back and in such a huge way. People are now talking about a billion transactions a day kind of numbers. So, where do you really see this heading? Where is the next level of growth going to come from? And do you believe this is a trend that's going to stick? That people are not going to perhaps go back to cash in a month or so. That this is a trend that's likely to sustain and grow over the long term.
I think to answer your question, I absolutely think this is a trend that's here to stay. I also believe that we are at a very early stage of this trend. So if you think about a traditional S curve, I do believe we are still early stage. Inflection is yet to happen. And the reason I say that is because if you recall the report, the Nandan Nilekani report that came out last, and if we think about the per capita digital transactions for India compared to some of the other countries, the headroom for growth is still like some of the countries that are at the leading edge, Singapore or Sweden, are literally 10x of where India is. And then when you actually decompose that aggregate number into different stratas of the Indian society, what you will realize is the so-called digital revolution in pay touched a very small group of more kind of savvy digital native customers who already were some in their behaviors. So they were either using credit cards or debit cards. Now they are finding a more convenient way through wallet, AI, mobile payments. But I think there is still a very large part of the payment ecosystem that still runs in cash. 85% of incomes in India are in cash. This is just a beginning of a very long trend. And if the early signs are anything to go by, then it's here to stay and will get much bigger over the years to come.
Okay, digital payments here to stay. Miss Chandaru, one very interesting trend that we have seen in the last couple of months is the rapid adoption of digital in tier two cities, the smaller towns. I mean, if you look at e-commerce sales in October, a majority of it this time actually came from India's smaller towns. How is Indian Bank or banks in general, how they're preparing for this shift? Because the nature of the profile of customers is also changing. It's no longer the top 10 metros in India, but digital adoption that we are seeing at scale, and people are now talking about how feature phones will perhaps come with digital payment options. That's going to be perhaps the next game changer. How are you preparing for these changes as a bank?
As you mentioned, I think COVID, the only or one of the few positive things about COVID has been this acceleration of the digitalization. Many of our customers have a very, quite a dense presence in the tier two, tier three, and even the rural segment. So the adoption to digital in this last 6 months from that category has been phenomenal. The safety, the security, and the need to be contactless, the need to avoid physical contact has been the main driver of this kind of a push for online banking or mobile banking. And added to that, the banks have also, even previously, we were driving this digital inclusion sort of among our customers because that works for, it's a win-win. It's for the customer also and it's for the bank also. Another point was this government had wanted us to distribute the direct benefit transfers through, through so many branches in cash. And that actually, a lot of banking correspondents were involved in the nook and corner of the country. And this, though it was a physical transfer first time, I think this also brought about a connection with the customers who now have opened accounts with the banks and slowly moving on. ATM card, RuPay cards, Indian Bank is the biggest issuer of RuPay cards in the country. And that RuPay cards are now helping us, bring them online.
Right. Mr. Vajankar, your company kind of works on the plumbing in terms of the software products, the framework solutions that financial institutions need. Now, how have their needs changed with the rapid adoption that we are seeing? Because these numbers are huge, they are unprecedented, and there are like millions of micro transactions happening at scale. So, in terms of the products that they have, the banking products, the frameworks, the framework solutions, are they up to speed? Are the demands changing? How are you kind of adopting to this?
As a company, we've looked at various solutions that range right from the compliance solutions to digital transactions and core back office as well. And in this, what we've seen as a change has been right from the customer onboarding, where digital onboarding has become the trend for onboarding customers both rurally and in the semi-urban and urban areas. So that has sort of helped banks create new business avenues for new products. The other aspect has obviously been with regards to the growth in the transaction volumes. So here, what we've done is really focused on making sure that the front ends are lean and being able to render transactions quickly. There are challenges that come up with the volumes going up, and so there are tweaks necessary in the architecture to make sure that the scalability is maintained as per the guidelines of what NPCI requires to be able to make sure that the transactions are successful and there are no timeouts. So that reduces the customer friction overall and enhances the customer experience. But largely, there is also the aspect that payments has now moved away from necessarily the bank's front ends themselves. So they are also coming in from third parties like um, uh, Amazon Pay or Google Pay, etc. And then that would straight away hit a switch rather than a front end. And there we ensure that those interfaces are scalable, secure, and that's how we made sure that volumes are able to be scaled up. Overall, if you look at the volumes, they've grown over 100% from the period of lockdown to unlock, or rather, even if you compare the beginning of March and then now. And we do see that again increasing another 70% or so by the period of, let's say, March to April, that these volumes will rapidly scale up. And this has largely been owing to the very high end of onboarding that was done for customers, both on mobile apps as well as digitally onboarding customers for new products. That has resulted in this growth in volumes.
Right. In fact, I'm going to come to the whole MSME part in a bit. But Mahindra, in terms of the arc that we are seeing, it started with P2P, P2M. Will it eventually evolve to perhaps a super app that will have everything? Payments, insurance, credit, perhaps investment, the next arc that we are going to see as far as digital transactions, digital payments in India are concerned?
Now you have to ask yourself, what are the right put onto that trend? But then as you are sort of just taking that trend forward, if a customer wants a micro insurance product that the customer can review online, decide that, hey, between these three providers, I want to pick this provider, and sign up for it, do their KYC, get a credit approval, and sign up for that product, then why not, right? If they want an insurance product, so micro credit, micro insurance, all of these products, I think the combination of the digital onboarding trend accelerating, because I think the financial services providers, whether it is banks, lenders, NBFCs, insurance companies, manufacturers, being ready to trend, and then some of the large traffic aggregators like an Amazon Pay, facilitating that connect between the customer and these insurance manufacturers or credit manufacturers is the trend that you're seeing. But I think the crux of it is the point that Rajesh referred to, which is the seamless digital onboarding. I think enabling that has been at the heart of it. It started initially with Aadhaar. Now, a bunch of different innovations that are coming around video KYC, CKYCR. I think these are all big enabling parts of the puzzle, which that jigsaw, as it is coming together, you are starting to see some of these newer trends emerge. But ultimately, it is, I mean, if you just think about Amazon, we started selling books, then we now sell everything in terms of physical goods, and enabling customers to also pay their bills and also get an auto insurance and also get a credit line is just a part of that extension, because that's what the digital trend does. It just makes it a whole lot easier for customers to adopt these products.
Right. I guess you need to have like really clean pipes. So as you said, where it can flow across services, across different services. But Miss Chanduru, one big trend that we have seen is the MSME seller, the MSME merchant. They've become the most coveted customer for everyone because Kiranas, MSMEs, that's going to drive the next level of growth. Um, Again, what are your own thoughts on this? You're a bank that has extensive presence in India's smaller cities. What has your own experience been when it comes to Kirana, MSME adoption of digital payments, digital transactions?
I think MSME is one segment which is now getting onto the digital platform more than ever. There are some inhibitions, some apprehensions around their tax or other liabilities. What happens if their accounting is too transparent? What happens if the bank is able to see the entire cash transaction, entire transactions. So, but now after the GST and after this again the COVID situation, and I think if we can find a solution where the accounting of that MSME is easily seamlessly integrated with this payment mechanism, and there is a way where they can find the benefits in terms of their own data, in terms of they can see uh, uh, the orders or the tracking the payments, the receivables, and their cash management. This is what is happening in some of the places where there is a very good seamless integration done. And this is something the bank is also working on. We are collaborating with some fintechs to get this done. So that is one way. I think the bigger challenge is the awareness about the benefits of digital. This offline retail, again, getting them onto the payment mechanism, and with cash discounts and cashbacks, discounts. I think there is an incentive build up that is happening, and the banks are also part of this entire framework. Also, the EMI or the funding of the MSME itself or their purchases. So this is a very positive development that is happening around MSMEs, but a lot more has to be done. I think it's an evolving situation, but MSMEs, and as you mentioned, the feature phone being the main utility for them. I think RBI is also working on the offline kind of system where connectivity with the internet is not really necessary or compulsory. I think that would also better work. But this is the next major piece in the entire digital system, I believe.
Rajesh, one critical element that's really going to drive digital transactions or sustain it is trust. So, how does one really go about building that with customers, with various players in the ecosystem? Also, from a security standpoint, are players investing enough in their security apparatus? Because that's the next risk factor. Once we see digital transactions go up in a big way, I think the National Security Advisor, in fact, recently said that most of the frauds that happen are through financial transactions or something to that effect. So, is that going to be the next big thing? Are people taking security seriously enough? What is your own experience?
So when we look at the aspect of what it entails to sort of define security, one comes from the regulator in terms of the push. If you look at the change from EMV for cards for adopting EMV, then you look at the aspect of tokenization being brought in, whether it was the Aadhaar tokenization that came in and then also the
Hmm.
tokenization for using QR codes. We were one of the pioneers for QR code payments globally. So we clearly bought that with the perspective of bringing in that so-called security instead of disclosing account numbers. So that has been the trend that's come in. So if you look at any modern digital payment mechanism, that is already in a way adopting a lot of aspects of security, which don't need extra investment in the backend necessarily to be implemented, because the major aspect of security is really addressed with tokenization. So encryption really takes, I wouldn't say a backseat, but tokenization becomes more important. Just splitting these two. Now, when we come to the core issue that we've seen, the majority of the transactions that are fraudulent are because of ignorance sometimes of customers about the processes or the usage of apps and things like that. So, for example, someone would get a call to offer some incentives and give away a pin or probably give their OTP to get the offer. They would probably go and do that. So, the communication that needs to be stronger is aspect of avoid doing. Quite a few banks do that, and I think with the registration process itself, if this was to be addressed, that is a key aspect. There are also frauds that happen at the registration stage, and these can be addressed with the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning to detect more aspects of what you say demographics and dynamics of the customer. So I would say increasingly, if you look at digital transactions, their percentage of fraud is lesser than the fraud on card payments. And that's, I think,
Hmm.
good information to have with regards to investing more in digital payments that are linked to MPOS or other areas. One last part I want to say is that it will get even more secure with the advent of 5G and IoT, because then tokenization becomes seamless and you're able to adopt tokens being exchanged between two systems, pretty much like how Apple Pay, Samsung Pay operate. You can then have tokenization done where banks can have their own systems for MSA payments or corporate payments being done.
Right. You mentioned investments in customer and other to do that than Amazon. But Mahindra, just hours ago, the RBI has said that India's largest private bank must not go ahead with any new digital launches or issuance of new credit cards because of the outages that they have had in the last few years. Now, broadly, what do you make of this? Are our systems prepared? Because you brought up failures, and that was an issue that we saw particularly in October, November at the peak of the festive season. So, is India really prepared for this 1.5 billion daily transaction scenario? Have banks invested enough in their systems?
No, I think Padmaja ma'am and Rajesh would probably be in a better position to answer this question in terms of the infrastructure investments. For us, this is what we worry about day in and day out, right? Is making sure that when we are putting our name behind a service, can we ensure each one of these pillars are operating at levels that we feel proud, right? And we believe that it is not a problem that you can solve in 1 month. It is not a problem that you can solve in 1 year. It will require several decades of continued investment to get there, right? And I think which is why I keep saying we are just at the start of this trend. All of these things need to harden. They will not happen overnight. But I think the good thing is there is the right kind of policy, the right kind of policing, and the right kind of technologies, right companies with aligned incentives that are working towards making it happen. So that's where I'm very optimistic in terms of how this trend would continue to accelerate. But you'll have some of these bumps in the road, right? You'll have some of these bumps in the road. These are good reality checks of where we really need to invest, because as much as people make it sound like, hey, it's a reward cashback, it is not a marketing and sales play. If people think that they're satisfied, it's real engineering, real hard technology problems that still need to be solved. So I think we're some ways away on those.
Right. Padmaja ma'am, how would you respond to these concerns?
First of all, I don't think in this type of risks or in the reporting there's any difference between private sector and public sector. It's RBI's monitoring that is bringing out these things. But again, it's not just investment; it's also how do we monitor, and we cannot really, say that I am perfect and I've invested, so I am okay. It's not that anything can happen. Only thing you can take assurance from is that you have the right set of people, you have the right set of infrastructure, and you have the right set of monitoring. So reporting happens all the time. All banks report whenever there is an incident. Even a near miss incident is reported to RBI. So I think RBI has been doing its job quite strongly. I think all this, Mahendra said, we are evolving. So these things do probably occur, and it's not like the people have lost money. It's the system went down. It was not allowing
Correct.
people to probably transact. So it's evolving. I think all of us are investing, all of us are looking at it, and it's a good learning that it's not just the customer experience, but also the robustness of the system that is equally important for us to live by our brands.
Right. Rajesh, closing comments from you. You know, the bank's tech infra is lacking. I mean, one person on social media told me they are at least 1 or 2 generations behind the kind of technology investment that is actually required. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't agree on any such acquisitions, because I do know that banks take their business very seriously. Whether it is public sector banks or private sector banks, I've been amazed by the adoption to change that we've seen with them, because we've been in the business for over 2 decades now. And from 2016 onwards, when UPI has come in, we've seen this massive change. Either it's investments in IT, security, systems, and the response to change. It has been amazing. So I think banks necessarily do take their business and digital payments very seriously. The fact is that these things happen when we look at power outages or whatever. We've noticed this in our own lives, that power outages do happen. Now, can we protect ourselves against the impact of that? That has been a lessons learned, I guess, for some banks. And RBI's actions will only probably make everybody in the system, not just the bank, but also the vendors in the system, as well as customers, more aware of what their responsibilities are and their rights are.
Right. On that note, thank you all very much for giving us various insights on not just the state of the digital ecosystem today, but what it's going to look like, what factors will really shape it over the next few years. Thank you very much for joining us for this special panel discussion.
That brings us to the close of this episode of Times Network's Digital India Summit 2020, Enabling the New Normal, co-presented by Tata Consultancy Services and banking partner Union Bank of India. Goodbye and thank you so much for watching.